Well, hey, everybody, it's Casey J. Cox with the Quarterback Dadcast. We are in season 6, and this next gentleman I met actually last year at a event where I spoke at in the great state of New York for the New York Tri-State chapter at TechServe. So thank you for having me out there. And this gentleman was someone that really kind of stood out. He was a curious guy, super easy to talk to, and very gracious in his follow-up. And then we stayed connected, and then I spent time with his leader. Shout out to Sioux Logan, who the founder of RedStream. But our next guest is Michael Papadakos. He's a U.S. Marine. He's a former wrestling coach. He's got some real estate skills. He's a growth and strategy guy in the staffing world, but more importantly, he's a dad, and that's why we're having him on the show to learn more how Michael's working hard to become that leader and quarterback of his household. So without further ado, Mr. Pappadakos, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Casey. I appreciate the intro. And I don't know about being a quarterback, but definitely a tent pole holding up the circus. That's kind of the analogy that I think about when I think about being a dad. But certainly the quarterback analogy is a good one too.
Well, you bet. Well, we always start out with gratitude. So tell me, what are you most grateful for as a dad today?
I mean, for me, just the opportunity of having kids. I think I was somebody who, for most of my life, the thought never occurred to me to actually have kids. I was probably too young and too selfish. So to be able to, raise 2 wild animals and tame them and hopefully pass on some wisdom is pretty extraordinary. And I've got an awesome wife too, who, is a critical piece of it all.
Well, very cool. So my gratitude today is, yes, so we're recording in March. This episode will come out in a month or so. Yesterday, I turned the ripe old age of 49, and I'm so grateful for, it was like the birthday of, as you get older, every birthday is kind of different. But yesterday's birthday was awesome. I had so much kind things from people and messages, and the thing that made me most happy is my kids' friends were sending me messages.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I was able to play golf the afternoon with some friends, and had a great dinner with my wife and a good buddy and his wife, and just very, very grateful for the love and people surrounding me. It was an awesome day. So I was grateful for that.
Yeah, no accidents, I'm sure. You built all that stuff. So it is nice to sit back and soak it up every once in a while, because I think we often forget, right? We get caught
Totally.
up in
Life's moving fast. Well, bring me inside the huddle. Tell me how you and your wife met, and then share more about each of your children.
Yeah, so I met my wife on the subway. This was just a random passing on the number 7 train heading out to Queens. And I saw her on the train, and she definitely caught my eye. And it was hard to summon up the courage to talk to anybody on the subway. And as luck would have it, she was getting off at my stop. So the doors opened, she stepped out, I stepped out, and I said, I usually would make a right, and she went left. So I decided to go left. And I said, "Are you walking this way?" And she, without missing a beat, she said, "I'm following you." And that kind of blew my mind.
Wow.
And the rest was kind of history. She lives about 3 blocks away from me in Jackson Heights. And she's just an incredible human being, and kind and gracious and beautiful. And we have a lot of fun together. So that
Very cool.
started it.
Yeah.
And then
how long have you been married?
I think, gosh, I'm bad with numbers. I think we're at 13 years.
Okay.
I think.
Very cool. And then tell me about your kids.
Sure. So Leo is 12. He looks just like his mom, so he's blessed in that way. And my daughter, God bless her too, she looks just like me. Luciana is 8, and they're good kids. They're curious. I think they're pretty kind, and the job is to raise them with values and let them know that life's not easy and no silver spoons.
No, amen. Amen to that, brother. It's, I think raising grounded kids who is super important. Something that my wife and I talk about a lot is like, if you experience things in life, and I know I think the life we've created is not the life I had growing up, and not good or bad. It's just different. And so it's like, but I want the values that my parents did a really good job teaching me about hard work and commitment and follow through, and um, just really want to make sure like we work hard to get those. And it's funny, like we have a son in college now, and my daughter's a junior in high school, but to see when your kids get older and they go to college, man, if they decide to do that, it blows my mind how much they mature once they leave. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And everybody warned me about it, but it's like until you experience, you're like, what are you talking about? Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's been so fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, I think, you try not to preach too much,
Mm-hmm.
and you try to just impart wisdom as if you were a friend or a coach, and not try to get too emotionally invested in their decisions and what they're doing. But man, is that easier said than done?
100%. That's why I am obsessed with the word curiosity. Um,
Yes, you
and
are. Yep.
I love curiosity. It's just, I think it solves so many problems in life. It makes relationships easier. Uh, then you don't have to worry about having to say the right thing because you've asked the right questions, and the other person's going to talk majority of the time. You just have to listen.
Right. Right.
So, well, take me back to what was life like growing up for you, and talk about the impact that your parents had on you now that you're a dad.
Yeah, sure. So when I was my mother was born in Berlin, actually in 1945, in a bomb shelter. Uh, Literally in the basement of a bomb shelter. My babushka delivered her by herself in the telephone booth. She was a doctor and cut the umbilical cord, and did the whole thing. And they had already fled from Russia, and her first husband was shot in the backyard. Like they fled, absolute chaos, and ended up in New York City. And my father's side of the family, they're from Greece, came over 1927, 28 or so from Sparta, and ended up opening up a flower store. So to make a long story short, or shorter, my parents met in New York City in the 70s in the heyday. And my father ended up passing away when I was 4. So it was just me and my mom. And yeah, I mean, definitely had a good childhood, but plenty of challenges along the way, as you can imagine, for a single mom with a boy. And yeah, we definitely had some bumps along the way, but we made it through, and mostly because of her, hard work and love and not giving up.
So, your mom was born in a bomb shelter.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that was. I mean, did you ever, as you gotten older, have you had conversations with her about like just experiences and
Oh
growing
yeah.
up?
They lived in a DP camp, displaced persons camp, up until I think 1957 in Munich. So they were all basically political refugees. And my babushka wrote a letter to Eleanor Roosevelt to get political asylum, and they got it. So yeah, they made their way over here. Didn't speak English, were educated, but didn't matter if you didn't speak the language. And yeah, I mean, they literally saw the worst of what humanity had to offer. There was no food in Berlin in '45. It was rubble. I think people were literally eating other people at some points because there was no food. My babushka was pretty savvy. Her family, they were merchants. So when my mother was in the baby carriage, my babushka made homemade vodka that she would bottle, and she had a false bottom underneath the baby carriage that she would stash, and she'd go sell it. And when the soldiers would come around to inspect, she would pinch my mom real hard to get her crying, just to keep the soldiers from wanting to interfere or inspect the baby carriage. So yeah, they really um, they had some real profound experiences.
Wow. So when did they migrate to the United States?
I think 57 they came
50s.
over.
Okay.
Yeah. And my mother has an older sister who's 14 years older and a older brother who is 7 years older, who are both pretty extraordinary human beings. My mom, being the youngest and probably not getting the most, maybe all the attention that she needed, she sort of, I think, was a bit of a black sheep. Had a lot of fun growing up in New York City in that time period, and met my dad.
Wow. How did they meet?
I'm sure they met in like a nightclub or a disco, or
Okay.
I don't know the exact location, but somewhere in the city at one of these places.
Wow. And if you don't mind me asking, how did your father pass away?
Lung cancer. It was a small cell carcinoma, so he got the diagnosis, and I think within 6 months, it was over.
Do you have many memories of him?
I have two memories. Um, they were both when he was sick, and him kind of being in bed and much like you, coughing a lot. He was
God,
obviously.
I got like a freaking allergy thing going on here.
So yeah, no, I do have two memories of him. Have a lot of photos and pictures. I've got his dog tag around my neck, so I keep him close to my heart. And life happens.
Yeah, my pops passed away in 2021, and I got a picture of him right next to me here. I think about him often, and so losing a parent, never easy, no matter what age you're at. So I guess we have that in common, Michael.
Yeah,
What did your mom ever remarry?
she did, and we'll just say that didn't go well.
Yeah.
I think initially the guy seemed like a decent human being, and at this point we could probably say he had mental health issues. So extremely violent, abusive, physically. Ended up in a shelter for battered women at one point in North Miami, just because he was on a warpath. So it was over kind of in the blink of an eye. It was they met, got married, and before you knew it, things went sideways real quick, and we had to pack up and get out of town.
Wow. And you guys obviously made out, I think, hopefully safe out of that journey.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we had to restart. We moved to Rhode Island, which is where I went to middle school and high school, and been blessed to have a lot of good friends and great experiences. So again, everything happens for a reason. If it wasn't meant to be, it wouldn't have happened. So
Right.
that's kind of the way I look at it.
Did they eventually catch the guy and get him in trouble?
So he had apparently done this to a few women before. This was kind of his MO. He would find vulnerable women who maybe had a little bit of resource. Not that my mom had much, but whatever he had evaporated. So we went from a nice house in Miami, normal family house, to a 1-bedroom apartment in Rhode Island. My mother gave me the bedroom. She slept on the couch. Had a 1978 brown Chevy Nova. Buddies used to call it the Duster. It was brown. It was a full on, the type of car. Just
Oh yeah.
So I have fond memories of saying, "No, you cannot drop me off here. You will drop me off around the corner from wherever we're going." But
That's
my
funny.
mom battled. She worked every day, and she did the best she could with what she had.
Now is mom still with us?
Yeah, yeah, she's doing well.
Very cool. And what keeps mom busy these days?
She writes. She's writing a Harry Potter like story. She's been working on it for about a year plus. It's pretty amazing what she's been able to produce, and she's just editing and trying to get
Wow.
it done. It's like her, she's on, I guess, what, the 16th or 17th hole, I'd say. So, you
Okay.
got just burning daylight every day, trying to get the things you want to get done and create your legacy.
So as you reflect back on obviously the migrating to the States, the journey of losing your pops, growing up single mom, seeing some of the struggles you went with a stepdad. from the maybe to highlight the positives, talk about the values that were really instilled in you that you use throughout your life and even now as a father.
It's tough because honestly, I think I was pretty angry for a long time. I think I probably felt like I got the shit end of the stick,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a good kid, but once puberty hit and adolescence, um, I definitely the rebellious spirit kicked in, and I caused her a lot of grief, probably caused myself a lot of grief, and
Mm-hmm.
just didn't know how to process all of it. It was just a lot of emotional baggage, and
Right.
you don't know what you don't know. So I think no matter how much a mom tries, she can't instill the things in a son maybe that a father can, just because it's hard to relate. So um, that's what led me to the Marine Corps, and you know, knowing that I needed the strictest form of structure and discipline that I could instill. Um, but she did instill hard work, love, and being compassionate. That's really her traits, and she's highly creative, and she passed that on to me. So I've at times in my life I've done some pretty fun and creative things, and hopefully we'll one day get back to them.
When did you join the Marine Corps? Was right at 18?
21.
21. Okay.
Yeah. So for about 3 years, I was like Jack Kerouac. I was on the road. I was mixing it up with all sorts of characters. Lot of lot of interesting people. We'll say.
Well, tell me what was the tipping point to say, "Hey, I got to get my life in order here," and what triggered you to join the Marines?
Yeah. So I guess it was about late '99. I was waitering in the city, and just I just think I was just bottoming out. I was living a life that I couldn't sustain, that my body couldn't sustain, my mind and spirit couldn't. And I one thing I knew about my dad was he did go to the Marines. Um, I knew a guy who had gone, who was a friend of a friend. Sounded like he had a decent experience. I was sort of running out of options. You know, I couldn't build the ship by myself. Is what I figured out. Is I just didn't have the tools to course correct. So I walked in the recruiter's office and I said, "This is going to be the easiest one you got." And he started telling me about the Montgomery GI Bill, and I said, "Hey, I appreciate it. I don't care." I go, just I said, "Just tell me when and where to be and where to sign." And it was kind of pre-internet, so I really didn't know what I was getting into, other than what people have the idea of what the Marine Corps is.
Yeah.
And yeah, and just had 6 incredible years.
And where were you stationed?
Yeah, so I was pretty fortunate. I got deployed a lot. I went to Japan for a year, and then I got selected to go work in the embassies. So my first station was tough. I went to Paris, France for a year and a half, um, and then from there they shipped me to Egypt for a little while, and then a little country called Burundi, which is south of Rwanda, east of the Congo. So I spent about another year and a half there. So a lot of good travel, good people.
And what was your specialty in the Marines?
Yeah, so when I was on embassy duty, it was diplomatic security. So did security for U.S. Dignitaries, embassies. Did a security detail for Colin Powell. So got to do a lot of high speed weapons training. But before that, my first 3 years, I was a paralegal. So I supported the JAG Corps, doing court martials and um, just a whole bunch of legal stuff.
So, so I'm starting to kind of put this puzzle together here. You mentioned create. Your mom has a creative gene, brother. You've done a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
from waiter to Marines to wrestling coach to uh, paralegal to security. It's like you're like a movie actor.
I did a couple movies too.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Any ones we know?
I've got an IMDb. I've got 2 movies on the IMDb.
Okay.
Nothing major, all kind of small independent stuff. But so I did improvisational comedy for a couple of years when I got out of the Marine Corps,
Okay.
and something I really love doing, just cutting it up. And
Do you still do it?
I haven't in the last couple of years, but I've got it on the horizon to get back into it.
Did you ever go with, have you heard of the yes and training?
Well, that's what it is. Yeah, it's Del Close. Yeah, yes, and yep.
So there's a guy named Travis Thomas. I don't know if you know him.
I don't know the name, but I might know the face.
So Travis is a former quarterback dadcast guest, talented speaker, talented author. He was a coach for the U.S. national soccer team at one point. So anybody check Travis's work. I just wrote a new book too, but he's an improv guy too, and so it follows the yes and so I was curious if I think it's like how you get trained in it.
Yeah, exactly, and it's applicable to all things in life. I sign my kids up for it. I just think it's good to, it's a good skill to have, to be able to think on your feet. And
yeah. Speaking of your kids, so of all of these, have your kids shown curiosity yet? And hey, Dad, tell me about what your life was like yet. Have they shown curiosity about that?
yes, yeah, they have, and I give them the after school special version.
How, I guess, at what point, if ever, do you ever think you'll share some of this adversity you've been through?
Well, that I have shared. I have shared, the trials and tribulations, the episode with the stepfather, and they understand it, and I think
Yeah.
that it helps them frame how good that they have it. And again, you don't want to be that old guy. I was like, back in my day, you kids. I try not to do that, but
Mm-hmm.
there are times where I've got to say, hey guys, you got to really take a step back for a second and realize how good you got it.
Right. Well, I think, we've done a lot of episodes, Michael, on people asking for help. And so, like, I'm a big believer of power of vulnerability, power of humility, power of curiosity. I think those are some of life's superpowers as it relates to relationship building, not only for us dads, but in business or in corporate America or any sort of leadership roles. And so I think it's it's cool that you have shared some of those stories. And the other thing I've seen is people have, I've interviewed a lot of dads who they've actually sought out help, like got professional counseling. And I think I want to celebrate that, because I think sometimes you can't do it alone,
Yeah,
and keeping stuff in is a dangerous recipe for one of these days we just explode over the simplistic things because we're not talking through our emotions.
yeah.
So, I mean, did you experience that, any positive through therapy throughout journey for yourself?
I did at one point do I think it's Gestalt theory therapy, which is kind of like full circle therapy, not psychotherapy, and kind of just reinforcing, you aren't what happened to you.
Yeah.
They help create who you are, but all these things are a cycle, and you've got to work through the whole cycle, and that takes time. And I think when you have trauma at any point, it takes time to work that trauma out, and it's gonna my wrestling coach used to say, sometimes you got to hit rock bottom to push off to get to the top. So I think you've
Yeah.
got to you do have to work through that stuff and acknowledge if you're hurting, or
Mm.
you're whatever it is, anxiety, OCD. I've got guys coming out of the military who had far more serious experiences than I did, and have to work through stuff. So I think where we are right now as a society is really is a good thing, where guys can talk about stuff, and I think not feel ostracized, or be told to. I mean, how much were you told to suck it up as a kid? I
Right.
imagine just from coaches, it was suck it up. And even when I was a coach, I had a half dozen suck it up expressions. Build a bridge, get over it. Just
Yeah.
and sometimes you do have to employ that stuff. But
Yep.
sometimes you have to recognize that some stuff's bigger than you, and you've got to do the work.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I've told the story before. I don't know if I've told you, but so I had a pretty significant injury in high school that prevented me playing football my senior year in high school. I was lucky enough to play in college, but I didn't have a lot of film. But this injury allowed another kid to play who I beat out the year before, and he would go to have a great year. And that time of life, this is where I really learned about like asking for help and vulnerability. And I remember going to my high school coach and I said, "Man, Coach Osborne, I'm wishing he does bad. I wish the team sucks. I just have these just immature negative thoughts." After I get done with this like rant about just woe is me, he's like, "Man, I'm so proud of you." I'm like, "What? How could you be proud of what I just said? That is like the most I was a selfish, not a captain." He's like, "Because you're asking for help." And he like celebrated it. So it's like, and so it's almost like I think was just amazing leadership by him to be able to recognize that's not really who I was deep down, but obviously I was going through this funk, got me out of it so quick, he turned me into his offensive coordinator, allowed me to, call plays, and all of a sudden now I'm on the coaching staff as a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
But that's one thing we talk to our kids a lot about is like, keeping it in is a dangerous thing, like we just talked about. And so like always working on communication, talking often. But yeah,
I feel like that's something that we can work on as a family, because I think sometimes they do bottle it up a little bit. And, here's the thing. There's a fine line between complaining and having to talk about something, because I think as a society, we like to complain too, or we like to have an opinion about everything.
Yeah.
What I try to teach my kids is you don't need to have an opinion about everything.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean if there's an issue, we can't talk about it, recognize, your emotion, your frustration. But that's high EQ for a kid to understand. So I don't expect them to, but we do work on it.
Yeah, that's good. It's like, and your kids are still I remember the ages of 12 and 8, and that went by, it seems like just yesterday, but it's and the skills around EQ you can practice. I mean, those are ways to get better. And I think it just like anything in life, it's repetition. What, if you think about the values that you and your wife that are most important to you, talk about what comes to mind that you guys are really trying to enforce that might speak to another family at home.
I think first and foremost is kindness. I think my kids are kind. They're not, my son and his friends, they tease each other, but at the end of the day, it's having a good heart. I think gratitude is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that your situation, better or worse or whatever you want to say about somebody else's, you need to understand that not everyone is dealt the same hand, and you've got to have compassion, patience. Patience is a big one.
Yeah.
Delayed gratification, big one, especially nowadays. Now, you have instant access to everything. So how do you steer that machine? And I think hard work and curiosity for sure. Try new things. I tell my kids, hey, I want, go try whatever, soccer. Well, I don't like soccer. Well, you don't have to like it. You just got to try it,
Right.
because you rarely like anything you're not good at. I hate bowling because I suck at bowling. I cannot, for the life of me, get better at bowling.
Yeah.
So I don't like it. But I guess my point is that go try new things, try everything,
Yeah.
and then to see if you like it, see how it feels, see if it speaks to you in some way.
Is there a do you follow a gratitude practice yourself?
Yeah, so I recently started journaling. So quick 5-minute blurb, most mornings, and do try to recognize, the things that I have and what,
Yeah.
the a lot of it is luck. A lot of it's just dumb luck. Some of it's hard work, but some of it's just where you're born, when you're born, right? If you're a boy who was born in Sudan, you didn't choose you didn't choose that situation. That's
Right.
just that's the luck of the draw, and you got to deal with it. So I think you just got to be grateful for your health, for your situation, for the clean water you got. For look, if you got clean water and you got you know clothes and a pair of shoes, you're doing all right. When I was in Burundi, the things that I would see every morning on the way to the embassy, we lived at the top of a hill, and the women who were coming down would have stacks of firewood under each arm, a baby on their back, and maybe balancing, a basket or something on their head oftentimes. And I'm talking walking 3 miles uphill and then back down to the market every day to go sell this firewood. Feet look like hobbit feet. A lot of people didn't have shoes, and then you had civil war in some ways still going on, a lot of violence, and a lot of these people were every day was walking up and down that hill. They're smiling, shooting the shit with their friend that they're walking with, and it just puts it in perspective is how good we have it in this country. And I think this is me ranting that it really is the best time in history to be alive between medicine, technology, communication between people of every background. So I think it's easy to get caught up in the swirl of so many things are wrong or could be better. But at the end of the day, I think it is the best time in history to be alive.
With the values you mentioned, which are some fantastic ones, and the story you just shared, like how did all those experiences, seeing some of these other countries while you're in the Marines, shape you as a dad?
And in some ways might have turned me into a bit of a hard ass, like, oh, your butter's not melted on your bagel,
Yeah,
and you're telling me like, try again. Like I guess I don't have a great deal of patience for that. To me, is the complaining.
yeah,
If there's something, I don't know. There's a problem that you're doing that you've got in front of you. Figure out a way to deal with it.
hmm
Don't bring it to me. Um, and I will help. I'm not that much of a hardo, but I'm just trying to get them to, what guy just wrote the book, The Obstacle is the Way.
yeah.
Ron, right?
Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, Ryan Holiday. That butter's not melted on your bagel. That's the obstacle. Spread the damn butter.
Right.
If your grades are dropping and you're missing foul shots every time, well, your greatest weakness, or whatever your weakness is what's calling your attention. Um,
Yep. I think there's another great book I read along this journey. Actually, a former guest, guy named Swen Nader, he wrote a book called "You Have Not Taught Until They Have Learned," and so it's a book about like helping kids become more self-sufficient. And we went through that during COVID when 2020, we didn't realize. I don't think we realized that we were doing too much for our kids,
yeah, yeah,
and so like we gave ourselves some grace, but then we realized, okay, let's do something about this. And so now they're so self-sufficient, which is like that's our goal, I think, as parents, is when they graduate, that are they able to survive, and you hope they are. And sure, there's going to be bumps along the way, but you hope you've done everything you can to kind of propel them to that next stage.
yeah. And I think when you have stability and you have parents who know these things, it's definitely a lot easier.
Um, so you saw, I mean, I love to kind of explore. My curiosity is going off again. Like I'd love to explore some more of the journey across the world during the Marines. And is there any other stories that come to mind that maybe you've shared with your kids, or that speaks to you, that just kind of helps keep either you grounded or them grounded as individuals?
Um, when I was in Burundi, I got a chance to go out and visit other countries. I went to Tanzania, Kenya, South Africa, Ethiopia, Rwanda. So I think just get out,
Yeah.
go see places, be uncomfortable. You don't need 5-star accommodations. You can rough it. And I think especially, I don't know now how much kids do it, but it used to be kids would backpack through Europe, right? You have
Mhm.
$1,000 or something, you buy a Euro pass and you putz around and you explore. So for me, and even when I was coaching, I tell my guys, hey, when you get done here in college, you don't have to go get a job right away. Jobs are going to be there. But
Mhm.
what you have right now is youth, and you've got energy. Go get a job. I managed a restaurant in Nantucket one summer. I got lucky, and a guy asked me to manage this restaurant, and saw these yachts pulling in, and the staff would come in off the yachts, and they'd sit at the bar, and I talked to them, and they'd be like, "Yeah, we just came from Hawaii. Now we're going to Argentina, right?" And they're on these super yachts, and all their stuff is paid for, and they're traveling. I'm like, hell, go get a job on one of these yachts. Just go see the world. Go
Yeah.
find a way, because eventually you may just end up in a house with a dog and a couple kids and look back, and you might not now have to wait until you're retired to go do that stuff. So I think when you're young and you've got energy is the time you can really go mix it up and just see what other cultures are and see how much different and similar human beings are.
Yeah. How and have you shared a lot of the stories with your kids?
Yeah, as much as they can understand,
Yep.
or I think is relevant.
How do you how do you balance teaching without making them feel guilty that they didn't have your life?
Well, because they got all the time ahead of them.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
think that's an art, you know. I think it's something I always like we've been lucky to travel as a young when my kids are young. Now I want my kids to it's a balance of like not hey, you're so lucky. Well, I don't want them to feel like I want them to feel lucky and grateful, but I don't want them to feel guilty about it. Like
right, right, yeah,
it's a form of appreciation without. So I think it's something we talk about often in our house because I think now is like my son's older. He now sees it and appreciates. He's like, wow, we were really lucky. I'm like, and
right,
well, yeah, but hard work creates luck.
right, yeah, right. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Opportunity,
But
exactly.
so it's funny you say that, because that's what makes, because there's a lot of chores in the house. You got to take in the garbage cans. You got to scoop the kitty litter. You got to empty the dishwasher. Like this is a team effort here. Me and my wife
Yep.
both work hard. Like we can't do everything.
Right.
So you've got responsibilities, and if you're gonna, you know, live off the fat of the land here, you gotta carry your weight,
Right.
or or things will change.
Yeah. As you think about the journeys that you've been in, good, the bad, um, growing up, and then now as a dad, like, is there one experience or one moment that continually drives you to say, like, man, this experience has really helped me, and I think about this often because it's going to help me stay on this path to be the best dad I can be.
Um, I don't know if there's one. Honestly, I think it's just a culmination of so many things. I started wrestling in high school, and I remember walking in my first wrestling practice, and for lack of a better term, getting my shit pushed in, and and that happened for a good year. Where I wasn't getting wins, I was just getting smacked around and manhandled, and again, didn't have a dad who was picking me up and patting me on the back and saying, "Hey, Mike, you got to work on this." I was walking home from matches by myself. My mom's working late, so I was going to the library, checking out books, literally black and white books, to learn technique. And then, come about my sophomore year, things started turning around and started winning matches and getting competitive. And, um, I had some other, good, I guess, sporting accolades along the way, but they were all self-earned, I'd say. You've talent will only take you so far. Then you've got to put in the work, um, and enjoy the experience, right? Like, I don't know. It's a whole nother conversation about setting goals. I,
Yeah.
I almost don't set. I really don't set goals.
How come?
Because then what happens when you hit them? Now
Set
what?
new ones.
I mean, I guess so. I think, do the best job you can every day, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah.
If you just put that work in every day, and you make those calls, and you connect with your clients, and you've got your cadence and your rhythm. Goals in some ways are even limiting. I'm going to make this many placements. I'm going to open up this many accounts. Well, then what? Now you're going to sit back and say, well, I hit my number, so I'm done.
Yeah.
Just do the work, and the rest will take care of itself. That's all. I think because then it becomes success and failure, and it's not about success and failure. It's about the process. It's about, right, as a quarterback, getting your reps, learning, maybe how to throw offhand, how to, just learning new technique and enjoying the process, because that's what it's all about. The trophies and all that stuff. That stuff's, to me, it's all in the garbage. I don't even know what that stuff is. It's just it's just stuff. All that you really have is your experience.
Yeah, and those are great messages to teach your kids for sure. You said something I want to go back to. Where did your the grit or resilience to figure out, well, if I'm going to get good at wrestling, I need to go to the library? I mean, was that taught, that self accountability, or is that just innate?
No, I think it just seemed like a logical step.
Yeah.
There's information out there. That's why I tell my kids, look, my son, he's like me. He can't jump very high. I've got some attributes. Vertical leap is not one of them.
Yeah.
So he wants to be able to grab rim one day. All right, here we go. You got plyometric drills all over YouTube. Hit them. Go get them. Day in, day out. Your vertical will grow. Do the work.
Yeah.
So I think the grit and determination, for me, it just came from, there's that story of, like, they take the soldiers to the island, and they got to get to the other side, and then they burn the boats, and they tell them, hey, there's no going back. We burn the boats. There's only one way, and it's forward.
Yeah.
And if you're not going forward, then you're stagnant. And
yeah, complacency is a silent killer.
Right. I think that's what it is. Is just enjoy the process of getting better, whatever it is you do.
Mm-hmm. Did the Marine Corps teach you that?
Probably really reinforced it, because the officers that I worked with my first couple of years were almost like de facto dads to me. They became guys who, these guys were attorneys, then decided to go to officer candidate school and become Marine. So, to make it through law school is one thing, then to make it through officer training, the Marine Corps is another thing. And now to be trying capital murder and child pornography cases and drug cases, and, they just get thrown into the fire. So these guys are just hard chargers, and I couldn't sniff them. I mean, I was just in awe of the human beings that they were. So being around them just rubbed off on me. Like, if I could, take a shred of their discipline, it'll serve me in tremendously. I mean, I had guys they'd come in the office at 5 a.m., start, we get our PT session in, they'd start working, and then at lunchtime, they're running the 6 mile flight line, and eating chow at their desk. Like, what? And then work until 7 o'clock at night, and then rinse, repeat every day. And you just realize that the human, our mind is such a powerful tool.
Yes.
It is just, there's so much untapped potential all the time, and to unlock it, what's Jocko say? Discipline equals freedom. The more disciplined you are, the more freedom you have.
Yeah.
And I'm not the most disciplined human being, but in the ways that I do use it, it serves me.
Yeah, it comes back to choices, right? That's why I love, one of the things I was taught, that I taught my kids, is the power of 1,440, which is the number of minutes in a day. No one gets more, no one gets less. And so when people say, "Oh, I'd love to do that, I just don't have time," I said, "Bullshit. Yeah, you do. It's a limiting belief. You can choose your time however you want. If you're not, like, for example, like, I want to read more, then go read more.
Right.
Spend less time on Facebook.
Right.
Spend less time, waste doing whatever you're going to do. Whether it's a game or like, if you want to do things, the power of like, and I've taught my kids, is the power of like visualization. So it might not be goals per se. I mean, we do set goals, but like I just like visualization, like writing things down that I will do eventually. Because if I can see it,
Yeah.
and then I write it down, it's like there's science that just the power of writing stuff like down, you
Oh
can
yeah. Yeah.
put into existence.
I also played tennis a lot growing up and still play. And I'm always visualizing,
Yeah.
perfecting or improving techniques, and yeah, if you can see it, then you can, I think, will it into existence.
Have you read The Inner Game?
Oh yeah, I love that book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just, for those at home, it's about tennis. I don't play tennis, but it's about mindset and self talk, and whether you're in business development, sales, if you're a teacher, coach, policeman, doesn't matter. We all have self talk, and we all have limiting beliefs. We all have too many thoughts. But a lot of those thoughts, they would say 75 to 85% of those thoughts are negative each day. But it gives you tools to kind of figure out ways to self manage that.
yeah, yeah. I just recently learned that. The question was, is it better to have more positive thoughts or less negative thoughts? And the answer is less negative thoughts. And I
Yeah,
catch myself all the time. I've got my inner
that's self
beat
too.
that sometimes chirping in my ear, and I just got to
Yep.
recognize it's chirping and just push through it and shut it down and not and just let it pass.
Yep. Um, if there's an area of your dad game that you feel like, God, man, it's not where I quite want it to be. That if that like, but something you can do to fix that, you can be a better dad. Like for me, I have to always work on patience.
Yeah.
For you, tell me what comes to mind for you, an area of your dad game area you might be able to get better at, that might speak to other dads at home.
Um, I think trying to make the most of the moments and be present. When you shut down work, shut down work. When eliminate the distractions, because nowadays we're all distracted. You can be distracted by so many things, and you can be sitting in the room with your kid and not really connecting. So I think just whether it's the car ride or the meal, it's just having building the connection, um, activity too, getting out and doing stuff. I think people are tired. Everyone's got busy schedules, and come the weekend, everybody wants to chill. But I think sometimes you gotta mount up and say, all right, let's go hit a trail. Let's go do something.
Right.
And build. We do a lot, but just things that don't involve structure, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, it's important. I think so often we live, it's just this go 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 mindset, and sometimes it is nice to relax and just unchart and unwind, but it's also nice to create those memories.
Right.
And I had a great dad I interviewed earlier this year, and he was always, his thing was, do something your kids want to do. What's an activity that
Yeah.
they want to do, not an
Right.
activity that you want to do, and you're going to make them do your activity. But maybe it's like, maybe if your daughter or son likes cooking, we'll go take a cooking class with them, learn
Right.
something with them. Um,
Yeah. My wife does a great job with that. She gets out the recipe book. They cook once or twice a week. Pick out a recipe. She's much better at that stuff than I am. But yeah, I agree. What do they want to do?
yeah, because I was lucky. My son loved playing golf as a kid. I love playing golf. So selfishly for me, that was like a win-win.
Yeah,
I got to
that's
play
great.
golf. He got to play golf. Now he's playing golf in college, which is even more win. Um, my daughter, she's an athlete too. I sucked at basketball, but she's like really good at basketball, and I don't know where she gets the talent. That didn't get it from me, but those are like, for me, like rebounding with her. That's like our time to like talk and spend time and teach mindset, teach hard work, and
Yeah. Yeah. I'm coaching my son's basketball team right now. And part of the reason I started wrestling was because I knew I wasn't going to make the basketball team
mm,
and I had to do something. So it's funny. I'm coaching a sport that I can coach it, but I'm not a great clinician. And all I tell the boys every game is, I said, I don't care if we win or lose. All I care is that you guys fight. All I
Yeah.
care is that you fight. If you guys go out there and fight for every loose ball and fight for every rebound and just be dogs, be a
Yeah.
dog on the court, again, the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. I always, teams always need scrappy people. They always need scrappy people. There's, not everybody's going to shoot, and there's so many things in the game of basketball that can show up in a stat that you can truly impact the game that won't show up in a stat book.
Yeah, and I think that people don't realize, and maybe this is my meathead mentality. To me, basketball is a contact sport.
Yeah.
People think of football, wrestling, rugby is a contact. Basketball is a contact sport. Grabbing rebounds, boxing out, defending. Like there's a lot of physicality in the game, and I don't think that coaches teach that maybe as much as they teach, and they should be teaching skills, but the pros make it look so easy, I guess is my point. They make it look like it's all slash and dash and, hitting 3-pointers. But if you can be a dog out there,
Mm-hmm.
you can change the game.
My daughter values defense more than offense.
There you go. She's a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is, how you just described, that's her game. There's a loose ball. She's going head first.
Right.
She usually gets put on the best player in their team, and it's her job to try to lock them up.
Yeah.
And so I've taught her, it's like, yeah, you might score 6 points, have an assist, have a rebound or two. But if their best player, who averages 15 or 20 a game, only scores 4, well, that's like scoring 20 almost, but
Right.
you're preventing them from doing it. But it's always not going to show up in a stat book.
Right.
I said, coaches know, honey. They know. They see these things.
And then you have a reputation, and now other teams know you're the dog on the court. So now you're just in their head because you're a presence out there.
Well, it's funny you say dog. So when she was like in 5th grade, I said, hey, imagine, I want you to pretend you're a pit bull. We've never had a pit bull. I don't think we ever will have a pit bull because we're a golden retriever family. But I said, imagine you're a pit bull and you've not eaten in like 6 months. Okay. And I have your leash. When you step onto the court, I want you to visualize you're that pit bull and all those other players are bunnies. Go get them.
Yep. Yeah.
And so she just like plays like a freaking animal.
Yeah.
And never gets tired because that goes back to choice. And she gets that from my wife. Like I was joking, football, I played hard for 7 seconds, then I got a rest in the huddle. But like my wife's got great cardio, and I think that's where my daughter gets it from her. But
yeah.
Okay. Talk about, actually, before I ask you a few additional questions, if you had to summarize kind of everything we've talked about, from your ups, the downs, the challenges, the military experience. If you had to summarize kind of the key themes we've talked about, the dads can take from our episode today to really kind of apply to their own life, to kind of be maybe a better leader, better quarterback of their household. Michael, tell me what comes to mind.
I think it's just enjoy the process. Do the best job you can every day, and the rest will take care of itself. And sometimes your best job, right, is a shitty day. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like sometimes you're just going to have a day where you're off, your energy's not good, your focus isn't good, and you just got to make it through. But as long as you recognize that and do the best job you can, it's like the weather; it all passes.
Yeah.
You just live to fight another day. So I think enjoying the process. I think, like you said, always talk about curiosity and compassion, I think are huge. Those things come across. You can't put a price or a value on them. They build strong relationships. And that's really what it's all about, is the human connection that you can have with other people, and hopefully have their backs and they'll have your backs, and building your squad.
Love it. That's good. I think it's important to, when you said enjoy the process of being dad, one thing that kind of came to mind was also just like, just showing up, just be there. Sometimes you don't have to say the right thing, but if your kids know you're there.
Or asking how to go today. Like I stopped doing that. When I pick up my kids, I ask them, I go, how are you doing? Like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Not how was class, how was, just checking in with them as a person.
Yeah.
I think that's a real easy one, because then you'll, I don't know. It's nothing happened today. They're going to tell you how they're doing.
Well, this is, I don't know if you recall from our time when I spoke that one day, the framework of TED-based questions that I got taught at age 41. And for dads, if you don't know what this is, it stands for tell me, explain, or describe. And then when my kids were your age, to get them to talk better, I would use TED-based questions and I'd put a number in front of it. So I'd say, hey, tell me 2 things about your dad that you loved.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember you talk. I had forgotten about the TED. I like the TED is awesome. Yeah.
So they have to, versus, because sometimes we say, hey, how you doing? I'm doing good, Dad.
Right.
And it's easy just to go on. But if I say, hey, well, tell me 2 things about your day that were great. Well, this and that. Great. Tell me more about that.
Or
And when
describe what that teacher
describe how it made you
did.
feel.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you just keep, that's where I always tell, like in my work world, but I use it on my family and my kids, like that second and third is where the gold is. That second, third level question is where the gold is. And um, so anyway, I could keep going on that forever because I'm a curiosity psycho. Talk to me about the leathernecks in tech.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a group I run for Marines here in like New York City metro area. Um, it's a LinkedIn group. We do, I'd say, quarterly happy hours, get together. Everybody works in technology in some capacity,
Mm-hmm.
and there's really no agenda other than getting together, being able to powwow with some other Marines, and it's funny, you get a group of Marines together, and 2 minutes in, they're telling stories, right? And
Yeah.
the common bond comes out, and then eventually maybe they'll start talking about work or something. So it's just a networking group, younger, older, everybody's sort of invited, and super simple. Just there to support each other. I'm actually grabbing dinner with 2 guys tonight from the group, and one of them got me into jujitsu here in town, and has been whooping up on me. So, and then another guy, Wally, who lives in the town over, also Marine. He was aviator or worked in avionics. Just again, just general networking, helping each other out, opportunities and guidance and camaraderie.
Nice. Well, I'll make sure we'll link that in the show notes. If you got like there's like a LinkedIn, is there a LinkedIn page you have for it, or
Yeah,
you'll make sure that's linked in the, talk about then lastly, before we go into some fun, crazy lightning round stuff, if people don't know who RedStream is, and talk about what you do for them, and how people can learn more about your guys' company.
sure. So, I mean, from the top down, Sioux Logan founded the company about 18 years ago in New York City, and she is a maven of
Indeed.
a maven of staffing, technology, and understanding client needs. I mean, the amount of things that I've learned from her in the last 2.5 years, and a lot of it is the curiosity and the building. So she started the company. We have an awesome group of clients. We're based in Columbus Circle in New York City. Um, Technology focused, um, and don't take my word for it. I think there's like 500 5-star reviews on greatrecruiters.com or some crazy number like that. There's a high level of accountability for everything that you do. There's a lot of checks and balances,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that she makes sure that people learn the right way, um, and it doesn't become fast food recruiting or fast food staffing. It's really comprehensive and centered around strong relationships and understanding what the clients need and
Mm.
giving them guidance.
Cool. Well, I'll make sure that's linked in the show notes too, so people can learn all about. Um, we'll tag Sue as well to make sure we give her some love, because she's a fantastic leader, fantastic female leader. Someone I've actually really enjoyed getting to know. I've actually connected her with a few other people. Actually, one of my other clients, Betsy, her and Betsy just met recently. They took a picture together in New York, and it was awesome seeing them together. But all right. If people want to follow you, they want to learn more about you, maybe they're intrigued. Is there any other social platforms you're on that they can connect with you? If you want to, if there's a Marine out there that wants to connect with you, is there a place I can send them other than LinkedIn?
I'd say LinkedIn's the best. I try to
Okay.
stay off the other stuff. It just it just becomes a distraction. So LinkedIn, I'm always on there.
Okay. Well, Michael, it's now time to go into the lightning round,
Oh boy.
where I ask you just random questions. I show you the negative effects of taking too many hits in college, not bong hits, but football hits. Your job is to hopefully answer these questions as quickly as you can, and my job is to try to get a giggle out of you.
All right.
All right. So, true or false? When you were a wrestling coach, your favorite move to teach your team was the DDT.
True.
True.
I was a big fan of spiking guys. So
Okay. True or false? You once pinned a guy and then gave him a frontal wedgie.
true.
I'm losing. I'm laughing at my own dad jokes.
I've gone ahead. I got thrown to my back once in college, and my buddies never let me live it down. I was on my back. I was fighting, and like a grenade, I grabbed, twisted, and pulled
Oh, ouch.
to get off my back. And the guy he yells, he goes, "Hey, get out of there! Get out of there!" He starts looking. The ref looks at me. I end up getting stuck. So yeah, I'm a dirty dog when it comes to that. Or I
Well,
was, no longer.
note to self: we will never be wrestling because I'm I don't get manhandled like that. Tell me the last book you read.
Stillness by Ryan Conway, right? Ryan
Holiday.
Holiday.
Yep. If I was to go into your phone, what would be the one genre of music that would surprise your teammates at RedStream?
Oh, hardcore underground hip hop.
Wow. Let's go.
Yeah, really just gritty. Yeah,
There's the dog.
there's a dog.
If you were to go on vacation right now, no kids, where are you and your wife going?
I'd like to do Costa Rica. Sounds great.
I've been there.
Jungle and some water.
That's a cool spot. If I came to your house for dinner tonight, what would we have?
Ribeye.
Okay. Sounds good. If there was to be a book written about your life, tell me the title.
No shit, it really happened.
Okay. Now, no shit, it really happened is a fantastic read. But now everywhere I keep referring it to people, but no one can get a copy of it because it's selling out. It's selling out at airports. Amazon can't print enough copies. Barnes & Noble, it's sold out there. And now Netflix wants to make a movie, Michael. So you are now the casting director. Who's going to star you in this critically acclaimed hit new movie?
Oh boy. Me.
It can't be you. It can't be you. Got someone else.
All right. Man, I'm not great with actors.
How about
I
Wahlberg?
guess maybe Adam Sandler only because he looks like me a little bit.
I could see that. Sandler, let's go. Okay, and then last question. Tell me 2 words that would describe your wife.
She's hot.
I've never got that answer. That's fantastic. Lightning round's over. I got obliterated. Laughed at all my jokes, which is what I do often. And if you get one laugh, you keep it going. So if I keep laughing at my jokes, I'm going to keep being corny and dumb. Michael, it's been fantastic getting to know you. Your journey of life from everything is intriguing. It has me more curious. Just obviously, just there's so many things you've been through as a dad, which I think has shaped the person you are. It explains why you've probably been successful because you have perspective. You've seen so many different things around the world from your military days, but also just the things your mom taught you around curiosity and even going through some of the difficult times you did as a child. But I wanted to thank you again for your time. It's been a really, really fun interviewing you, and I wish you the best of luck, brother. But thanks again for being a guest on the Quarterback Dadcast.
Thanks, Casey. It was awesome.